Hello everyone, welcome to Learn QA Automation. So in the last section, what we did was we created one page object and we defined our element separately, and then we improved our like this function that we were using earlier, directly find element, but now we are directly calling this search field element and performing actions accordingly. So in this this is not that much refined now, but will improve, or in the future I'll create more pages to make this clear. But before starting today's lecture, what I did, I created one file under project properties and I named it as global properties, and I kept only two values here, browser and URL. Then I created one web-based class which is empty, and we'll write some code here real quick, after explaining you. Then I created one read properties file, so this is also empty. So these are the three files which will be writing some code. So before starting I want to let you know that what we are going to do. So right now we are picking this URL, or we are directly like entering the URL here only. But what we'll do, as we will move forward with our framework, there will be more files or more properties which will be picking from this properties file. So for that purpose, what we need to do is we need to write or read properties, and for that I created this read properties file. So this file right now is currently available under this utility section. So what I'll do is I'll start writing, and I'll and explaining you start explaining you as well. So inside this read properties file, create one method, and I'll name it as get object repository for now. And okay, and what it will return, it will return us properties. So I'll return type will be properties, and I have imported it from java.util package. So I'll create one properties object here first, equals to new properties from the property class. So after this, and you must be aware that in Java, whenever we work with the reading some files, whether it is Excel or some other files, we need to open some input stream. So for this, we'll open some one input stream to read the file. I'll name it as, for example, stream for now, and I'll declare it as null for now, and we'll use this later on. So what I'll do is, now this is the file which I have created, global property. So I'll try to read this file and return the objects in one object variable, and we'll use that in our different class. So for that, I'll start writing in our try catch block. I'll do like, this is our stream variable. This is a input stream. So here I'll open new file input stream, and I'll point to new file, and in this file I'm going to define the path from where my file is residing. So I'll, from user.dir variable, I'll explain you. Give me a second, just let me type first. I'll explain you what is this doing. I'll append it with the path of my like this folder. So this folder is right now starts with uh, project properties, and the name of the file is global dot properties. Okay, and this is a name, and in this needs semicolon, and using properties I load this object string. So Now we need, it's complaining that need add catch block. So I've just added a catch block. So there are two exceptions. uh, okay, so I'll try to explain this first. So I just created one stream object, where one input stream object, and in this we are just passing this global properties file. So it is now like file will be loaded in this variable, and in the properties objects which we have defined, we are loading this stream. So what it will do is it will return all the object or the file or complete file to this variable, properties variable. Now the properties variable will be having everything which is defined here, like this is defined in key value pair, so this is defined in this manner only. Like when we'll try to get the browser, we can just specify the key, it will return us the browser, like the Chrome or the value. So we'll see that quickly. So here we you can see this is again complaining because we have the return type is properties and we haven't returned anything. So here we will, what we will do is we'll return this properties object. Okay, so now it is not giving me any error. So it is now, and now we have returned this properties object. So I'll move I'll go step by step. So we have defined this, so I'll try to access this property. So what I'll do is I'll go to my test case. Inside test case, you must be aware of that, how to access the methods from the file which we have created. So for that we need to create that need to call that file, or need to create the object of that class. So I'm creating that the object of this class which we have just created, read properties file, and I define it as new read property file. In this, what I'll do, this will, to call this read property file, the method which we defined here was this one, get object repository. So I'll call this method get object repository. Okay, and you notice the return type of this object is property. So we, sorry, I just clicked somewhere else. So the return type of this object is properties. So for this, what we need to do is we will create properties object, like properties, and we'll save these values in properties object. Now using this object, this properties object, what we can do is we can call the properties which are residing in this global properties file. And how we are going to call those, we can call using one inbuilt method which is like take properties dot get property. And you saw that it is asking for the key, so I'll define the key. And if you notice, the key which is here is on the left side, which is URL. So I'll define URL here. So, and now the variable, we need to store this in some variable as well. So I'll define string variable URL only, and if small URL, for example, just to differentiate that these two are different things. So I'll copy this, and now I can remove this from this section. Okay, and I'll call this. Now you will see we are not defining the URL here. Okay, so there is nowhere we have defined in read properties. Also, if you see, this is a file we have written. So here also it is not defined anywhere. So what I'll do, I'll quickly try to run this to see if the browser is launching like www.google.com or not. So I have just run it. Give it few seconds. It is loading. It's taking a bit longer. Okay, it's about to start. Okay. Actually, my system has become slow. I am running so many projects on the same system. on. Yeah, it has started now. Okay, so it has started successfully. Okay, cool. And it has launched the Google. You can see the URL is google.com, which we haven't defined. It is picking up from the properties file. So you can see it has typed milk and it will now click on images section. So it has clicked on the images as well. So, and the test will pass. You'll see, okay, the test has passed. So I'll real quickly close this. In the beginning, what I did was I mentioned a few things like uh, one file which I created is read properties file, and one is global file where we defining our variables. But this practice like doing or calling this is not a good practice, because whenever we are trying to get things from some files, we always do that in some precondition. For example, before running this test, we the all the objects or all the files should be loaded so that we can directly call this and we can use this object directly. So what I'll do is the next piece is the this send utility or this class which we have created. So in this class what I'm going to do is, so you'll come to know that why I have defined this class as well. So in this I'm going to define before method annotation which is present in test-ng. So okay, and I'll define one method and the name would be like, for example, public void or setup. Maybe I'll call it setup something, because this will set up some properties or something. So what I'll do is I'll write some code which, because in this method I need to create the object of read properties file which we did in our test case. But instead of doing in this test case, I'll do this work, or what I can do is I'll simply create this. What I can do is I can copy this from there, from this file only, to save some time instead of writing. So you know that these things are similar. So I just copied the same two lines. So and this is something we need to have globally, like I have the access. So what I'll do is I'll define it at the class level. For example, I'll make it public static, and you'll come to know properties and variable. I'll give this another name, for example global. I'll give it a global name, and from here I'll remove this and this as well. Okay, so now global, this another, yeah. Now in properties will get saved in this global variable. But how we can use this? So before method is runs before every test case. So in this here we have a test defined here. So before running this test, that this method will be called. So what I can do is in test case, this is a test case, we can extend our test with web base class. Okay, so it is giving us a hint, so I'll call this class. So now this web base, we can access the methods or the variables which we have defined. So what I can do is I can, instead of calling these lines, I'll delete these. Okay, let me give me a second. I'll delete these lines. And okay, and what we did is like we have global variable defined here, like we have renamed it as global. So now I can directly access it. So how can I access it? I can, instead of properties, earlier it was sorry about that, earlier it was properties. So now I'll change it to global. Okay, now it's doing the same thing. Now it will access the same like URL from the properties file, and we have no, now you can see that we haven't hard coded here. So whenever you define test cases, maybe there are more property files which you need to access, maybe username, password, still not defined directly in the test case. You can directly enter the key here, and you can use this value value gets stored here, and you can directly call it. So this is a similar thing, but now our test case is having like more knowledge, like it is extending our web base. In web base we have before method defined, which is doing some work of loading the like object repository, or reading the property files which is defined in the utility section. So you will see there are now connections between our test cases. So I'll try to run this here to see if this is running or not. So I'll come to know, and let me just run it quickly. Okay, so it is loading. Okay, it's taking a bit time. I need to clean my system, I guess. It has started. You can see, okay, the Chrome driver started, so it will launch. Okay, so it has launched. So now you will see, you should go to .com, search for milk, and okay, yes, great. So it has searched for milk, and click on images section. Cool. So it is working as expected. So I'll close the browser, maybe. Yes, I'll close it. Okay, so it has passed. So I'll close the browser. So so we are done with this. Like we have handled this case. So I'll just give you an overview again. So what we did in this lecture. So I'll minimize this one. So in this, what we created like one web base, which is a class which will be handling our like performing tasks which like before method or after some after soup, because in test ng there are so many annotations which we work on, like before method, before class, before suit. So these are the things which will be adding more in our web-based package. So that's why I created this to start with, so that you get a little bit of like hands-on to these methods. So and again we created one utility file which is read properties file. In this we just created one simple utility. We specified our properties file location, and when we are returning this properties object, and wherever we want to call this, we are directly calling this global.get property object. Why this is possible? Because we are extending our main class from web base, so I can access it directly, uh, and it will be like using all the, so that we can make use of like these variables or key value pairs. Okay, so this is it for today's session. So moving forward, we'll add more functionality and more code and more utilities as well. So stay tuned. Thank you.